Hello Year 4, I hope you're all well and staying safe. Now I want you to get your pencils and your papers or your exercise books and write down the short date, 12th of the 5th, 2020 and the LI to make a whole. And I also want you to write down the date in Roman numerals. So pause and do that now. We're going to be learning about decimals, so we've previously touched upon it, but now we're going to be going over it in more detail. So if you've got your Roman numerals correct, excellent, let's get started. We're going to have some recap, so I want you to get your thinking caps on and write these down. Divide 43 by 100. What number is represented on the grid? Write 4/10 as a decimal. Place 0.8 on the number line. And what does integer mean? Excellent. Now let's go over our answers. 43 divided by 100 is 0.43. The number represented on the grid is 1.32. 4/10 as a decimal is 0.4. And 0.8 on the number line. So this number line is divided into 10 equal parts, and the intervals are worth 0.1. That's what they represent. So we have 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7 and 0.8. So this is where 0.8 would go on this number line. And integer means whole number. Well done if you got those correct. And if not, over here I have some links that you can go on from my previous lessons. So these two lessons will help you understand what we're going to be learning now. So if you missed these lessons for any reason, or if you want to refresh your memories, I suggest that you go on the Year 4 playlist right now and take a quick look at these. Well done everyone. We have 100 grid over here. How many are shaded? We have 46 hundredths that are shaded because it's 46 out of 100. So this is how it would be written as a fraction, and as a decimal it would be 0.46. So how many more do we have to shade to make one whole? How would you figure this out? Pause and have a think. So the number sentence would be 46 hundredths plus something equals one whole. So we need to think how many are not shaded. What method would be the easiest to figure this out? Remember, in each row there are 10. So you could count in tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 51, 52, 53, and 54. So 54 hundredths are not shaded, not colored in. And you can use a number bond to 100 to work this out. So the number sentence would be 46 hundredths plus 56 hundredths equals to one whole. And as a fraction, it would be written like this: 46 hundredths plus 54 hundredths equals 100 over 100, which equals to 1. Now, as we know, we do not add the denominators, it's only the numerators that are added when we work with fractions. And as a decimal, it would be 0.46 plus 0.54 equals to 1. Now I want you to pause this section and try this yourself. 35 hundredths plus what equals 1 whole? 8 hundredths plus something hundredth equals a whole, and something plus 0.76 equals to a whole. Let's go through the answers now. It was 35 hundredths plus 65 hundredths equals to a whole. 8 hundredths plus 92 hundredths equals 100 of a hundredth, which equals to 1 whole. And it was 0.24 plus 0.76 equals to a whole. So for this second one, you could have shaded in 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then you would have had to figure out how many are not shaded to get your answer, and instead of counting each square one by one, which would take a very long time, we know that in each row there are 10, so we can just count in 10. Count with me. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 91, 92. And with these decimals, to make life easier for yourself, you had 0.76. You could have converted that to the fraction, which would be written like this, 76 hundredths, and then you would shade in 76 hundredths and figure out how many are not shaded, which would be 24 hundredths, and 24 divided by 100 would be 0.24. Don't forget to go back to those clips that I mentioned if you are unsure of how to convert fractions into decimals or how to divide. Now we have 100 square, we have one row shaded, and there are 10 in each row, so that would, and we have 100 altogether, so that would be 10 hundredths. It would be written like this as a fraction, 10 over 100, and as a decimal 0.10, but we don't really add the 0, so it would just be 0.1. So take a close look at this. But it's also 1/10 that are shaded in because we have 10 rows in total. So it would be 1 out of 10 rows, a tenth, which would also be 0.1 as a decimal. So what do you notice? Pause and have a think. There's a specific mathematical terminology that I hope you will figure out. 10 hundredths is equivalent to 1/10, and as we know, when we talk about equivalent fractions, we always add the equal symbol. They're equal to each other. A tenth plus something tenth equals 1. What would it be? So we know 1 would be 10 over 10. As we know, we do not add the denominator, so 1 plus what equals 10? The answer would be 9. Well done if you got that correct. Now, let's move on. What do we call this model? Now, we've used this model when partitioning whole numbers and fractions, and now we're going to be using it for our decimals. We call this the part-whole model. My turn, part-whole model. Your turn, part-whole model. Now, how would we go about to figuring out this answer? So we have the whole over here, and we have two parts, 0.7 and something. So 0.7 plus something equals to a whole. Now, you can write 0.7 as a fraction, which would be 7/10. So think 7/10 plus what would equal to 10/10. So it would be 7/10 plus 3/10 would equal to 10/10, which would equal to a whole. So 3/10, how would you write that as a decimal? It would be 0.3. So 0.7 plus 0.3 equals to a whole. Well done if you got that correct. Now over here, Sally has made a mistake. Can you spot it and correct her mistake? Pause the video and have a think. Over here, let's go through it together. We have a whole. And then we have 0.03 and 0.7. So 0.03 would be 300 and 0.7 would be 7/10. So let's write that down, 7/10. So we didn't have 3/10 over here. If we had 0.3, then yes, 0.7 would be correct. But we don't. We have the hundredths. So what can we do over here to figure out the answer? Let's take a look at our hundredth grid. 300 to shade in 300. And now think, how many are not shaded? So we've been going through this in our previous slides. It would be 9700 that are not shaded in. So the answer would be, so it would not be 0.7, it would be 0.97. Well done if you got correct. Now over here we have our part whole model again, and now we have 3 parts. So remember, part whole model, it can have many parts. It doesn't need to be 2 parts. Can you read out these decimals? We have 0.05 and 0.5, and we have something missing over here. So as we know, 0.05 is 500. What would 0.5 be? It would be 5/10, and if you want to say that in hundredths, it would be 50 hundredths. So remember we were talking about equivalent fractions. So let's go through this on our hundredth grid and visualize this. 5/10. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and in each row there are 10. And if we count all of these, it would be 50 hundredths. As you can see, it's half. So now, how would you figure this part out now that we have this information? Try to work it out and then we'll go through it together. So as a number sentence, we now have 500 plus 50 hundredths. So instead of talking about tenths, it's easier if we're talking about hundredths now. So 500 plus 50 hundredths plus something equals a whole. What is 5 plus 50? It will be 55 hundredths plus something equals a whole. And now think about your number bonds and work this out, it would be 5500 plus 4500 equal a whole, and that would be written like this as a fraction. So if you divide that, 45 divided by 100, who remembers what this line is called, the mathematical terminology? It's called a vinculum. Well then, if you got that correct, so as a decimal, it would be 0.5. So I know that was a bit more challenging than the previous ones that we've gone through, but well done if you got that correct. So now we're going to do a quick recap because this is going to come up in your task. 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. So how many centimeters would 4 meters equal? And if you have 800 centimeters, how many meters would those be? So you need to convert those. 400 centimeters and 8 meters. Well done. So now we have a few tasks. So the first task, you have your part or models and you need to work out what the part is. And when you've done that, you can write down the number sentence to go with it. I have 100 square over here to help you out. So depending on how confident you feel, so don't forget the number sentences, I'll write that down. So I've number. So this, you can pause this section and you can draw these in your books. And for your second task, it's a bit more challenging. So there's this worksheet that will be uploaded on our Year 4 online learning platform, which you can complete. And I also have the answers there so that you can check your answers. You can check it with a purple pen or any other color pen that you may have at home. And then for your purple pen activity, you have these part whole models, 0.65. How many different ways can you partition those? So really have a think about that. I would love to see what you come up with so you can draw these in your books. So the second worksheet will be on the school website. And once you're done with everything, I want you to take a picture of your work and send it over to year4@grange.harrow.sch.uk. See you in our next lesson.